tools in textile technology. So the first speaker will be Benny. He will give a presentation on the project and the work that he has been doing.
Okay, welcome everyone. So indeed the Optimtex project, it ran for 2 years with several partners. Yeah. So, and the aim was, there's a bit of a lack of, with students and in the teaching curriculum, to actually bring forward and spend enough time on the digital tools, the software needed to do to be able to be a textile engineer. So the aim was to reach higher education students from the technical field, but also just makers or young professionals in textile, and to give them resources so that they can improve their knowledge of software applications as they are used in textiles. Of course, selection has to be made based on the experiences of the different partners. So the main output of this project is a number of a course, which I will go into detail. Then also some instruments to apply it, which is just the software behind it. And everything has been made in several languages, which for Belgium is often less important, but for Romania, for example, it's quite important to have everything in their own language. And then there's an intensive study program. These are courses which went on, one in Romania, one in Slovenia, and one will be in November in Ghent, where people from Europe are getting parts of this course trained on. And multiplier events is like today to give a bit of background on the project. So who are the partners? I don't know, a lot of people here are from textiles, so you might know them. If you don't know them, then they are good partners to get to know for their own expertise. ENCDTP is a bit like Textile, I think, but then from Romania. They do a lot of leather and textile industry research, but it's not academic. Tecminho is connected to the University of Minho, I think it's called, in Guimarães, Portugal. They do a lot of, Tecminho itself does a lot of business development also with textiles. Then there's the University of West Bohemia. This is not a textile institute, but electrical engineering, but they have a lot of textile products. There's Iași, University of Iași, which has the Master in Industrial Design type of thing, if I'm not mistaken, that Mirela is with a lot of also textile machinery that they have at the university. University of Maribor in Slovenia, which is a bit which is comparable as Ghent University, as a university of type of faculties they have. So resources have been made. This is not just closed behind bars, everybody can access them. So part of it, you can just go to the website optimtex.eu and there's an instrument, and like that the material is available, but it is not the most user-friendly, I must say. I don't know where's my mouse. I cannot clone because the beamer is too different. So you have the instrument, and you need to scroll through the lessons, and every lesson has then a part example, a part theory, a part application, and a quiz. So yeah, you need to do quite a bit of scrolling, but you can find some background already, and everything is available like that in case you want to use some of this material into a course. Yeah. So on the other hand, there's also a Moodle environment that can be used by the teachers to actually give it. The layout there is nicer for use. Other teachers can obtain access to that environment by just doing an email to one of the partners, in this case UGent, if you would want to have access to the resources through Moodle. There are also videos, but normally the videos are all linked also from both places. So the first module that has been made is design and modeling of woven structures, which is all background on different ways to get a better insight and understanding of what are woven textiles, how do you make woven textiles and what is possible. So the courses are all made not as a pure theory course, but as cases, and it is perfectly possible to select only one case for a course, or I want to know, I want some background on using the basics of abacus. You just select case 4 in this case. So the software used in the woven structures is TextGen. Sorry. Is TextGen. TextGen is not really something that you can use with a weaving tool because it's more academic. However, for students to get the basics out of it, warp yarn, weft yarn, the different bindings that are possible, what is the influence of using flat yarns, round yarns, specialized yarns. These are all things you can simulate in TextGen and get a background, an understanding of woven structures. TextGen itself is more used for 3D woven structures. You have wizards in there to do different types of 3D woven structures that are generated. However, you need, of course, if you want to make one, you would need to learn software of a specific weaving loom that can make it still. Abacus is for simulation of woven structures or other structures, but woven structures is more complex. And we also have a section on complex weaving patterns. I think that this still comes. So for not everybody has a full textile background. So for those who know, I will say a little bit more on woven textiles, because that is the module that Ghent created in this course. So you all know woven textiles. They are all around us, from normal clothing and like jeans, a lot of jackets, a lot of trousers are made on weaving looms, but also a lot of textile around us, be it in cars, household applications, bed linen, seating, is all most of the time made from woven materials. But you also have high-end applications for woven textiles, like composites, a lot of composites. It can also be made from knitted, but a lot of composites are from woven structures. And composites, the word itself says components. It's called composite because there are two components, something flexible, which is a textile, and then a hardening agent, a resin is added to it to get a rigid structure. Yeah. So for example, race cars, but very nice applications are, for example, in construction, where you can make a composite of cement and textile to create curved concrete structures. A big other applications of woven material is in everything with geotextiles. If you make a dam today, a lot of the stabilization is with big woven mats that are placed in order to separate the different layers very accurately. But also in normal farming nowadays, a lot of it's biodegradable plastic is used, which can be just false, but often also in a woven manner made. And also smart textiles. Smart textiles can be done with all types of techniques, but also for the material is also oriented with TextGen in order to get an idea of how can you look at specific conductive wires added into a woven textile in one go, and to get a representation of that. So case 4, this is of course the basics. Case 4 makes the step from a constructed woven structure, which looks like this, for those who know already the plain woven fabric, and how you can go from there to simulation of it, what happens if you extend it, if you compress it, with the educational version of abacus. So with that we cannot do complex things, but you can get the basics out. For the students who are here, you might still learn that in the course later this year. And complex weaving patterns and colors is how to make, for example, tartans by mixing different warp and weft yarns, or how to create structure by changing bindings on the fly on a machine. And like this is how you can mix different colors with the software. That is a free software that is available to get an insight in that, or to create image-based patterns. You make in your software a pattern, and then you generate how it will look like based on the type of binding you use on your weaving loom to get your pattern coming forward. So that was the module of Ghent University. To give you an idea of what the other modules are, I will go over the others also. So the second module is on knitting structures. Of course, the only software that exists of knitting is the ones that the knitting operators give. And I believe, I don't know, I think here everything is on the Stool software that it is explained. I was now looking in it, I did not see the videos. I have to talk to our head, because normally there should be videos also. Everything is now based I think first this, do that in the cases. But so the first case is knitted fabrics with normal loops, then modified loops. Then they have case 3, which is spacer weft knitted fabrics, and case 4 is the specialized structures like 3D shaped knitted fabrics, and how you can set that up within the knitting software. I know for the people of Uhent, Magdalena, who's behind you, was in Stoel on a training. So if you want to, I know that they were coming, I think somebody said they were coming to Uhent also. Anyway, should you want to discuss? Stoel, yeah. So the third course is on modeling of clothing and garments. So this is from the University of Maribor, and it takes a look at how you can generate avatars for use then in virtual worlds, where you can then in the end also add clothing. So the first case is how you can scan with normal cell phones body parts and then clean up. So this here, for example, is a foot that has been that has been scanned. How you can do human body modeling and the reconstruction of this. The third case is then the construction of a body model from an avatar. So a body model means that I think this is a screenshot from Blender, where joints are added into an avatar in order to be able to make different poses. And then case 4 is actually to use this and add garments with the Optimtex PDS software, which then of course is a paying version, but this is what the University of Maribor had access to. They sometimes use Claude 3D also, but yeah, it's only 1 month for the students, so you have to be quite exact when you have the students install it, or otherwise.
That's our problem also.
Yeah.
So you can create from point clouds, you can create a human body avatar.
Yes. I did not have Grange, I don't know if you went through that when you had the training. Did they actually have you add a joint? Probably not in the...
Yes.
Yes, you added the joint also?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he had the training from Maribor. It was a small classroom and the teachers were not allowed inside. So I did not have it, but yeah, it's also explained, of course. The people of Maribor really went through this case with the students on the Moodle platform, so it should be all the steps should be present. The next module is on embroidered structures. So embroidery is a way to, when you have a finished fabric, to add something on top of it. It gives explanation on how you can do computerized embroidery, and Inkscape with Inkstitch is used as a tool because that is free. Then they give a design and digitizing of technical embroidery, so how you use this ink stitch to get patterns you can use on your embroidery machine. They use a Giacomo, I think, or is it Tacoma the name? Anyway, Tachima, yes. And but ink stitch can do it also for broader and other outputs. And then they show 3 cases what they make with it. They give an example of making a textile-based heating element, how to make illuminated fabrics, and how to make a water leak sensor by using embroidery of conductive yarns on a fabric. Let me give a bit of extra background of UEB. So it's an electrical department, so they do integration and encapsulation. I had some questions from, but no, this was somebody else who's working on, also a co-hand who asked me questions. I'll say, let me add some background on it. So these are stretch. The main thing UBB did is they made, together with the Czech company, the Clevertex yarn, which is a very nice hybrid conductive thread for use in a lot of smart textile applications, which is easily embroiderable also. And because it does not have a coating, and you can really see the filaments of metal inside the yarn, it's quite well wash resistant because of that, and you don't have coatings flaking or cracking. And they have several papers you can find how they make textile sensors, how they make components embroidered, and they also have the interconnection technology, which is the friction welding or the laser welding to join on textile different components, which is something very nice because the contact losses in smart textile is the biggest problem to make good components, such a connector, etc. And so here are some examples. This is capacitive buttons which are made, and you have a ground plane, and then different buttons, and you put over a second layer then with the place where you have to press. This is a heating mattress, and these are the 2 cases that are worked out in the course, a full heating textile and a light setup in this way, where they also, I think it's with soldering, was it with soldering or glue crunch? The adding of the LEDs?
With glue.
It's glue that they use, huh? Yeah, it's a conductive glue for textile. That is quite performant. So those are the textile modules that are present. After that, there is 2 modules which are very important also as a background for students, but which are more broad than just textiles. It's a module on experimental design, which, because a lot of research in companies, you need to do development of new products, so you have a lot of parameters that you can variate in order to determine what is your best way forward. So it's important to have to know the basics of experimental design, and some examples with links to textiles are given for factorial plans, central composite design, and factorial design, which are types of experimental design to set up experimental runs and not have to do everything. And also the 4th case, the Box-Wilson experimental design. So the output, no sexy images here, it's mostly the optimal output that you expect as a response surface from doing. And so here, I think it was with a plasma technology to coat fabric, how long do you coat, under what power for your plasma, and under what angle that you place it. It will probably be sputtering, and that you get your results of it. They added 2 extra cases which are unrelated, which are more advanced. TensorFlow is machine learning, that you can do draping simulations, the basic simulations. This is a bit perhaps the future, the type of draping that you now have in Code 3D or in other 3D tools is based on a type of modeling that this TensorFlow might replace in the future. And finite element method, a basic way of how to use Python to do finite element method, so an analysis of textile, which is a bit related to the case of Abacus that I gave at the start. And then there's a final module which is done by Techminio, which is on tech transfer. If you have an idea, if you an idea for a company, how do you translate that into reality? And it is done with 4 actual cases of Techminio. One is bringing software that is developed in academic for weaving to a broader public. One is the To Be Green spin-off, which is shows you on the screening and the business plan. IoTech is another company, and the 4th case is Protech Dry, which is reusable underwear for urinary incontinence. So how this startup can fully put such a product into commercial business. And as a 5th case, a SWOT analysis is explained and given that you can use when you do business development. So yeah, quite specialized, but can be interesting. So the main thing, of course, this is all material that you could use in as a maker, as a student, to learn extra apart from what you already have in class, or you can use it if you are teaching in a class yourself. But of course, yeah, it's always the balance, the big balance to make between we want to give enough theory, but we also want our students to be practiced with software, but we have limited time, and this resource developed could be a way to give some extra assignments also to students to have a look at cases to further benefit from what has been created. Okay, so yeah, perhaps I went too fast. Any questions? No? Yeah? So,
maybe I have a question. Is this material being used already, or you don't know yet? It's just being launched now? Do you have cases where they are using it already?
we are using part in our courses, and it's the same for the other partners. But of course, yeah, we don't give knitting, so I have not used the knitting parts. Everybody, this is always the limitation, that a course is quite defined, and this covers a lot.
Within we team, we will
Also use parts
circulate
of it.
and stimulate the colleagues to use it.
Yeah.
Did I understand correctly that the part that is open to everybody is the same as the one in the module, but it just the layout is different, but the content is the same?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Okay, then let's go to the next speaker.